Back here on HU for our college football playoff rankings. Look ahead, and here's what our Brad Crawford expects to see for the first week of the playoff rankings this Tuesday. So, number 1, Ohio State, Bama at 2, Indiana 3, Texas A&M 4, those top 4 seeds. And then you have Notre Dame, Georgia in the 12-5 matchup, Texas, Oregon, Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, and Miami has a 10 seed against number 7, BYU. Time now to welcome in Beanie Wells, DiNucci, and CBS Sports college football analyst Brad Crawford for our college football playoff rankings. Look ahead. First edition, comes up next Tuesday. And I'm always curious, right, what is going to be put out, because sometimes people put too much stock into the first rankings. Brad, I'll start with you. How much stock are you putting into these rankings that are going to come out on Tuesday?
Not very much at all, Chris, but I think the biggest thing that we'll learn Tuesday night is how much of an emphasis this selection committee puts on, number 1, strength of schedule, and number 2, strength of wins. That's a new metric that they're added in 2025. And I think that's why you're going to see a team like Alabama, who has 1 loss, be ahead of Texas A&M in these first playoff rankings, because Alabama's beaten 4 ranked teams. Texas A&M right now only has 2 ranked wins. So despite being 1 loss SEC team, I think Alabama will be a talking point Tuesday night.
Ben, I see that you have Indiana sitting at number 3. And, I think a lot of people out there would say Indiana probably has one of the better wins in college football, going on the road and dominating what we thought would be a tough Oregon football team, and then going out and pretty much dominating everybody else that they played on both sides of the ball. What's your evaluation on how the committee will look at Indiana and ranking them not in the top 2 positions, but in the top 3?
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all, Beanie, if Indiana is number 2 behind Ohio State. But I think the committee is going to put Indiana in the 3rd or 4th spot, just because overall the schedule's been weak. They've beaten 2 top 10 teams. One was Illinois. They beat Oregon on the road. And the rest of the schedule is pretty cake, man. This November slate for Indiana, heading into today's win at Maryland, the last 4 opponents on the Hoosier schedule, 1-17 in Big Ten play. So there's not another college football contender right now with an easier slate to finish things out than Indiana. And I think the committee is going to dock the Hoosiers maybe just a little bit on Tuesday night.
Brad, I think there's a lot of ball left. I'm interested in looking at a team like Texas, a team like Georgia Tech, a team like Georgia, some of these SEC teams, right? Texas still has Georgia. They still have Texas A&M left. Georgia Tech and Georgia are going to meet at the end of the year. So how do you see kind of this SEC shaking out? You got 5 teams in your initial rankings right now.
Yeah, I think the SEC is probably going to wind up with 4 teams. I've got Notre Dame there as that 12 seed, but you guys remember that 12 seed is going to be the G5 champion. So Notre Dame's actually my first team out right now, but I do think Notre Dame will be there Tuesday night at number 12. And then Georgia Tech, I think the ACC is going to be a 1-bid league. Miami losing against SMU today almost solidified that. I think if Miami finishes 10-2, obviously they're still going to have a say because they have 3 ranked wins. But if Georgia Tech wins out and beats Georgia and then wins the ACC championship, then Georgia Tech is likely going to finish 5th or 6th. And I don't think the ACC is going to get that second multi-bid league like it had last fall.
So, Brad, Miami, we talked about would have been, and Beanie, they tease us, right? These last couple of years especially, the U is back. Clearly they're not, right? So now, do you think it's safe to say that their college football playoff hopes are on life support? Or pretty much dead?
Yeah, they've essentially diminished. They're dwindling as the season wears on. I thought the Louisville loss maybe showed some warts for this team. I did not expect to see another loss to come 2 weeks later. Miami's a team a couple weeks ago, man, where I had them number 1 overall in the country. I think a lot of us did because the O-line and D-line looked so good. And then old Carson Beck has shown up these last few weeks. Some couple bad interceptions late in these games, and then Mario Cristobal had a questionable coaching decision calling that timeout before the personal foul in today's loss to SMU. So Miami is fading fast as a college football playoff hopeful.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. You know, when you look at Miami, you look at, the number one position, the quarterback spot, you can't count on Carson Beck in big moments, and he showed that the past couple of weeks. And then going down the stretch, looking at their schedule the rest of the way, they have NC State, who today look like a completely different team than they looked all year long. The ability to be able to run the ball, put up 583 total yards today on a tough Georgia Tech team. I can see them giving fits to the University of Miami. And also, they got Pitt still left on the schedule. So they got some teams that can definitely give them some business down the stretch.
I think Miami's been a fascinating study the last couple of weeks, and I think that's the thing that sometimes is so cool about college football, right? There's so much stock being into how do teams start the season? How do these first couple of weeks look? Brad, you just said it. We've talked about it a little bit. Miami looked like the best team in the country a couple of weeks ago. Carson Beck was playing really well. Defense was flying around. Malachi Toney, they've got weapons everywhere. And then the last couple of weeks, all of a sudden, the wheels start turning, the wheels fall off, whatever it may be. But I think it's fascinating. The good teams find ways to win in November. Miami hasn't been able to do that.
So I'm curious, Brad, and I want to know your thoughts on this. With Miami looking the way that they looked right now, how will the committee evaluate that Notre Dame loss to them that happened earlier in the year?
Yeah, it's certainly going to hurt. I have said for weeks, Beanie, that if Notre Dame gets to 10 wins, that has always been the magic number to kind of get one of those 7 at-large spots for the Irish. That being said, Notre Dame likely, even if they finish with 10 wins, the only ranked victory is going to be against USC. And that did help Notre Dame tonight. That USC did come back and beat Nebraska on the road, so the Trojans are going to stay ranked here through the remainder. But Notre Dame's schedule just has not set up well. We saw Navy today get blown out by North Texas. Navy would have been ranked for Notre Dame here in a couple of weeks. So losing to North Texas, that also hurts Notre Dame's strength of schedule. So if I'm Marcus Freeman, obviously I'm still preaching inside that locker room, get to 10 wins, fellas, and let these chips fall where they may. But if there's a 10-2 Texas or maybe a 9-win SEC team that has 4 ranked wins to Notre Dame's 1, perhaps you put that SEC team with 3 losses ahead of a 2-loss Irish.
I'm glad you brought up Texas, right? Because beginning of the year, they're the number 1 team coming out in the AP poll. Everybody's, really excited about Arch Manning in this offense, and they don't show out the way that we expected them to. So how likely do you think it is they can overcome those early losses to make it to the college football playoff?
Yeah, Chris, I think if Texas finishes 9-3, they're going to have enough ranked wins to get there, maybe as the last team in, so to speak, and get that 12 or 11 seed. Texas has had an opportunity these last couple of weeks, man, to get right. They beat Kentucky on the road. They beat Mississippi State on the road with a 17-point comeback, and then beat a ranked Vanderbilt, a good Vanderbilt team today at home. So as long as they split between Georgia coming up on the road and then hosting A&M on rivalry weekend, that's a game where I think the Aggies may go into that one ranked number 2 or 3, 11-0 in the country, and lose to Texas.
The first college football playoff rankings come out this Tuesday. Cannot wait to see how it all shakes out. Brad Crawford, Ben DiNucci, Beanie Wells. Always appreciate the insight, fellas. And so here's a look at the Longhorns' schedule rest of the way. So they just beat number 9 Vanderbilt. You got to go on the road against Georgia. That'll be tough. Arkansas. And then you have number 3 Texas A&M, November 28th. The margin for error for Texas, a lot slimmer than it was when the season began.